Hi, I'm Charlie Starr. The video you are about to watch is part of my free course, How to Read a Birth Chart. Signing up is easy. Simply subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell, and shoot me an email to the address in the description box below, letting me know you want to be enrolled. I will reply with a welcome email, including the syllabus and other free course materials. Then head on over to my channel page and find the How to Read a Birth Chart free course playlist. Hit play and follow the step-by-step instructions to become a true birth chart master. And now, back to this video. Hello friends, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the planet Neptune, and we're also going to be answering the question, what does Neptune mean in my own birth chart? We're going to touch briefly on the mythology of Neptune, and then a little bit on the astronomy of Neptune, and then finally we're going to apply both of those topics to answer the question, what does Neptune mean in my birth chart, and what is the symbolism of Neptune in astrology? When we get into the mythology of Neptune, it actually seems kind of straightforward, but I got into it a lot and I found that the mythology is actually quite complicated, and I ended up recording about almost 2 hours worth of talking about the mythology of Neptune and the nuances that can be pulled from it and the different cultures that have an entity or a spirit that is Neptunian in nature and how all of those different things apply. And I realized that I was getting in a little too deep, and the waters were getting quite murky, which is very Neptunian, right? And then when I went to put that video all together, then nothing was going well. Everything was malfunctioning. I ended up doing the whole video, editing it, and then it got completely erased. And so I took that as a sign that maybe all of that mythology and all of that background was something to be saved for another video, another day, people who wanted to do a little bit more of a deep dive on the mythology. So in this video, since we're just getting an introduction to the planet, I'm just going to give you kind of a very brief outline of some of the things. So on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward. Neptune is the Roman name for the Greek god Poseidon, who is god of the ocean, the brother of Zeus and the brother of Hades, which is Pluto and Jupiter, the two other planets. So it seems very straightforward that this would be a deity that's associated with the ocean. However, I read this book right here. It is Liz Green's book. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. The Astrological Neptune and the Quest for Redemption. And in this book, she makes a very, very good point that Neptune is a goddess as opposed to Poseidon is a god. And Neptune isn't just some planet that rules the ocean, but Neptune is actually the primordial waters, just like Pisces, the primordial waters of creation, and the mother from which all things are birthed, representing the unborn, representing the unmanifested, representing the creative waters that exist in an origin story of the creation of the universe in many different cultures over and over and over again, which is what she gets into in this book in detail, which is what I had originally gone over a lot. But essentially, you can look at this and say that Neptune is the primordial goddess waters of creation, the water element mother creator. And then when you look at Poseidon, Poseidon is essentially a god who is the god of the ocean within our own world, and also monsters and things hidden and unknown. So they share characteristics which we will apply to the meaning and the symbolism of Neptune later on in this video. Astronomically speaking, Neptune was discovered in 1846 in Germany. Neptune is one of the outer planets, which one of the most important categorizations of this planet. And as we talked about in the video about Uranus, the outer planet group makes Neptune a transpersonal planet dealing with a lot of sort of unknown symbolic archetypal energies. Neptune is primarily composed of dense, icy, cloudy material, such as water and methane, and it is the 8th planet from the Sun. So what does Neptune symbolize in astrology? To answer that question, we want to look at the mythology, and particularly the part of mythology that considers Neptune as the primordial goddess of creation. Neptune really represents really moldable realities, because this is the water that things are made from, but it is not the things that are already made. So there's a flexibility to this planet. This planet doesn't really have any hard structures or boundaries. It's not particularly one thing and not another thing. It is all of the possibilities all at once. It also has a lot to do with reality, because if it's the planet that creates the reality that we currently live in, then it's also the planet that shifts the reality and that is constantly taking away from that reality. And it makes this planet something that has a lot of blurred lines. It has a lot of fluid, changeable characteristics. And so the symbolism that you can get from Neptune, I'm going to read you this little list and you'll understand from that mythology how we're getting to these representations. We have illusions, mysticism, escapism, spiritualism, confusion, romanticism, the blurring of boundaries, extreme sensitivity, compassion, and transcendental experiences. That's from the astrologypodcast.com. So anything that really shifts our reality is going to be Neptunian territory. So along with this is going to be drugs, particularly psychedelic drugs, but anything that alters our chemistry and our perspective and our state of mind. So that's going to be any drugs. Along with that is going to be, like they said, spiritualism and transcendental experiences, because everything about Neptune is very meta. This really can be anything from serial killers to psychics, because it's really there's no boundaries with Neptune between different realities, so that can make people see other realities very easily. So it can make somebody very compassionate, very empathetic if they have a heavy element of Neptune in their chart. So these are the kind of Neptunian things. And it can also, like, of course, make you kind of crazy. Okay, so this is what Neptune really is symbolizing in astrology. And then what we can take from the astronomy portion of what we just covered is that Neptune is quite far from our sun, and it is a transpersonal planet or an outer planet. So it's going to represent things that are a little bit beyond our grasp, things that are really hard to define. Neptune is definitely an archetype that communicates through symbols and through imagery, not so much through words, because words have very clear and precise definitions, whereas symbols and images, they say like a painting is worth 1,000 words, right? It's probably worth more. So that's the kind of thing that Neptune is going to express itself in. With it being a transpersonal planet, that has two effects. One we'll get into in the next part, where we're answering the question, what does Neptune mean in my birth chart? But the other thing is that this planet is especially useful in understanding major transits when we're doing predictive work with astrology, because it's going to represent major energy shifts as they aspect an individual over a long period of time throughout their life. So what does Neptune mean in my own personal birth chart? Okay, so we already talked about what Neptune really can represent just in general in astrology, and that it's an outer planet, so it's very helpful when we're dealing with major transits and wanting to know what is going to come up for somebody in the near future, or we're trying to understand transits as they apply to our past experiences. But in the own personal birth chart, what does that mean? Part of the answer of that is going to come from, once again, this book that I read, Neptune, The Quest for Redemption. Why is it called The Quest for Redemption? Why does Liz Green call it that? Well, the way that she describes the energy of Neptune is, if Neptune is this unified, undefined energy that all creation comes from, it's going to be very unified, right? Because when things have distinction, when things are created, there is inevitable separation because you're defining things as not something else. But when they're in the Piscean waters, when they're in the Neptunian element, then everything is unified. Everything is one. All of the lines are blurred. There's no boundaries. And there's this unification that exists. And so her argument is that with the planet Neptune, wherever Neptune is in the birth chart, that is a place where the human psyche remembers that unity, and there is a mourning or a grieving that happens from lack thereof. So this can make somebody feel very lonely. It's that feeling where you are grieving the separateness of your experience. If you don't feel understood, you don't feel seen by other people, particularly important people in your life, whether that's groups of people, significant other, family. And this is also where we grieve the issues that arise from not seeing things from the other perspective or not having the same values, arguing, dissension, disagreements, having enemies, having different party systems that are struggling against each other, and the desire for peace. Like when you think of John Lennon's song Imagine, and you think of the hippie movement where everyone was just like, peace, let's all get along, let's all be together, let's all be one, imagine the world as one. That's very Neptunian. Where are you experiencing that energy? That's going to be the sign and the house that it is in your chart. But also this is going to be where you grieve that loss of unity. And what you do with that loss of unity is there's like a desire to return to that unity that comes along with that. And you can find yourself being in the role of the savior or the redeemer, the one that is bringing that unity, or you can find yourself in the role of the victim or the one that needs to be saved and needs to be redeemed and brought back into unity and brought back into purity and brought back into wholeness and brought back into this divine unification, right? So we see that story of redemption, being saved, being a victim, being played out in all different types of places. You see this in multiple religions, particularly Christianity. You see this in people's own lives when you're talking about somebody playing the victim or you're talking about somebody needing to be the hero. This is Neptunian expressions. This is somebody who is identifying as the victim, as the helpless. So sometimes Neptune can also represent victims, the helpless, the unborn. Often where Neptune is in your chart is a place that you have experienced loss in some way, particularly a loss of being understood or being accepted. Wherever that sort of feeling of separation and brokenness is in your own life experience, that's generally where Neptune is in your chart. And this also is going to be a place, because of that, that you're trying to redeem in your current life. So for example, if you have Neptune in Cancer, which symbolizes the mother and the home, one thing that you could experience with this is a feeling that your home was broken, your home was a place where you sort of experienced this grief, this loss. Neptune's very much can be about loss. And then you, in adulthood, you're striving to save that. You're trying to be the savior of that broken story. You're trying to redeem it, and you're trying to do so by building an ideal home for yourself, an ideal family. Maybe you're striving to be the ideal mother that you never had, right? So that's a way that this can express itself, and that you can try and be the savior and sort of redeem that area of loss. Partly because of that exact same phenomenon, but you can also easily experience confusion, delusion, not being able to see things clearly if this is in a sign or a placement that heavily involves other people. Those people in your lives may be people that you idealize or that you are so hopeful about that you don't see things clearly as they are. You don't see the people for who they really are, but instead you're seeing them for who that you want them to be. So it can be easy to be deceived or to be gaslit wherever Neptune is in your chart as well. Neptune is the modern ruler of the sign Pisces. The planet Neptune and the sign Pisces are almost synonymous in symbolism. Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces and definitely shares some characteristics with Pisces, but I would say Jupiter has its own qualities as also the ruler of Sagittarius. But Neptune is almost entirely synonymous with the energy of Pisces. It's just the difference of Neptune is the planet and Pisces is the sign. So I hope that answers the question for you guys. What does Neptune symbolize in astrology, and what does Neptune mean in my own birth chart? Please comment below where is Neptune in your chart, both the sign and the house, and a little bit about what you think that means. Throughout this video and throughout this course, definitely be having your chart open so you can see it, so you can immediately apply and contemplate what it is that we're learning to your own birth chart for anchoring purposes and for self-knowledge. Also make sure to have your flashcards open so that you're creating a flashcard for each of the planets, each of the houses. So for this video, you would want to have Neptune on one side, possibly the glyph for Neptune on the other side, as well as a list of words that has to do with what Neptune symbolizes and anything that you find important about the planet Neptune that will help you remember what Neptune is about. Okay, thank you for watching, you guys. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the planet Pluto and what Pluto means in astrology and in your birth chart. See you next time.